Hello. The last 10 questions what I asked you were about some special things in your life, what you like, what you not like, what you can do, what you want to do, etc., etc. Today we're reaching the 13th question, and the 13th question is there anything you are addicted to? And I want to combine this episode today with first my 13th question, but in the second step also with another question of my learning blog from Tough 180, because I gave the people from the learning group today the advice to take some intellectual property, some German intellectual property, to train and to working with their mind capacities and intellectual speed capacities to learn something. So maybe this is also a good connection to my German accent, because there are some people what like my German accent very much. They say it makes it very unique, and I tell them maybe it's not unique, it's just my way of talking English. Because I had one role model during and since my childhood, and it is Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger's first name was Heinrich Kiesinger, and Heinrich Kiesinger was leaving Germany during the Nazi time to the United States from Franken to the United States, and he never changed his German accent, but actually he's changing his German name. And it's very interesting because he was also studying after that in Harvard, and we will come back to Harvard in a minute. So what I want to say today is I want to talk with you about German intellectual property and history. And what I want to talk with you is in the German way a Parabel. And I don't know if you know what means a parable, but I try to explain you now. You is to think a little bit about Goethe on the one hand side on an intellectual way, to think and speed up your intellectual mindset possibilities, but in the other way I invite you to know more about Goethe and the Faust, because it's a parable what shows a lot about our mentality and the question, what are you addicted to? The 13th question. But in general it shows also what are we addicted, what do we need, what do we want, what is necessary, and so on and so on. When you think about that, Goethe wrote Faust in around 1820, when there was no internet, no Wikipedia, and in a society what was very much slower than nowadays, no internet, no traveling, yes? Then you can imagine what epic step Goethe was making for the world, for the one hand side, and on the other hand, what he made for an epic step for the intellectual property of the time from Germany on this time. So the first thing is what I wanted to invite you is to take Goethe's Faust from the internet, from Wikipedia or forever, or from which device you want to take it. There is one free book in the Google. You can download it. It's a copy from the library from Harvard from 1941, but it's very, very hard to read. So it's old German, and it's even not for Germans very easy to read this book. So the most easy way is you go to Wikipedia and you swipe with your finger, with 2 fingers down, and then Wikipedia will read you your whole screen. This is one thing what I know from the iPhone that it works very good, and I think when you have another device you can use another one. So the first thing what I want to ask you is, who was Dr. Faust? What was Dr. Faust for a person? What was his need? Where was he standing in his life when he met Mephistopheles, so the devil? No, where was he standing when he met Mephisto? And the second thing is, who is Mephisto? There are at least three forms and wordings for Mephisto: Mephistopheles, the Greece; Mephisto, devil, etc. pp. So think and read and find out what means Mephisto. The third thing is, what was the deal from Mephisto and Dr. Faust? And what is the parable? I use the German word because I don't know exactly the English word, but what was the parable for also nowadays questions? What is the parable for the deal what Mephisto has done with Dr. Faust? So the next question is, who was Gretchen? What was Gretchen's history? What was the reason why Gretchen came into the life from Dr. Faustus? And what was the meaning of the life from Gretchen, and what was the dilemma of the connection of both of them, Dr. Faustus and Gretchen? So another thing is, what is the poodle? What was the sense and the wording? Where comes the poodle into this movie or in this parable? And one other question is, a lot of wordings in the German language and nowadays coming from this book, Goethes Faust. So for example, in Germany we have one question and it means die Gretchenfrage stellen. So in English it means to ask the Gretchen question. Die Gretchenfrage stellen means what are the connection between religion, about science, education, and other knowledge. It's very, very interesting nowadays also when you think about esoteric. There is another word, it means the Erdgeister, the ghosts of the earth, Erdgeister. So think about what the Erdgeister showing us for nowadays esoteric. It's very, very, very interesting. And all the time think about that we are talking about 1830, 1820, something around this. So it's a long time ago when only a few of people know to talk about what they're thinking is true. So there was a very small group of intellectual people and they ruled the intellectual world. It's different than today because today everybody thinks he is a sender, an intellectual sender. What you know that it is not like this. But during this day, only a few people talked. And this brings us to the next point. What was Mephisto talking to the students about medicine, about science, and about the boundaries and the limitations of science? It's very, very interesting. So my invitation is to know more about your life, to know more about your mind capacities. Two ways. Read about the boundaries of science. What was Mephisto talking to the student when he gave him a student advice? He gave him an university advice for beginning his career as an academic. Very diabolic, because he showed him and he makes jokes with him about the limitation of science. And this is also nowadays a big question because, as you know, I work in the field of public health and I work in the field of psychosomatic and low approach public health in prevention of mental and other health problems, psychosomatic, psychocardiology, everything what means to have a psychic problem in the end. So Mephisto makes a big joke about the medicals, about the science, and about at least the whole science, because he say as the falling angel Gabriel, who knows as a part of the Christian empire and the angels that there is above the science always another force. This is a very, very interesting philosophical question. So find out what the devil or Mephisto was talking to the student. And in the end, find out what was the reason from the poodle. Yeah, and so go on the story and the book from Faust, because it's very, very interesting. And when you go to the learning field of my advice and of my Tough 180 learning group, then you can use all of these small items and points to specificate yourself a little bit, to find out what are the students, what is the choir, how many choirs are there, and so on and so on. It is one of the most important German intellectual properties. Many of the Germans are not knowing nowadays Goethes Faust. And you know, when I'm looking to the camera, I see at least that there's the devil here, and you can name him how you want, but I'm wondering, because I never have seen it, that there is one and there is the another one. So interesting, by the way. So interesting wise is that nobody knows a lot of Goethes Faust. And I invite you to think a little bit, because it's also nowadays a parable for your personal life and the meaning of your life. So think about it. And as a German, I'm very proud, and I'm coming back because I have my German accent. As a German, I'm very proud to be connected and be a part of this German culture, because Goethe was a big, big thinker, and he was thinking about many things what even now are very important for us. And it was the thinking about good and bad, about intellectual work and science, about the power and the fight from intellectual people, science, like doctors, against knowledge and soul, and on the other hand side, quacksalber, we call it, people what want to selling you something like esoteric, you know, when somebody's coming and say, I'm holding my hand on your shoulder or whatever. I don't know if it works or not, but there are some people who think they can healing and doing and blah blah blah, but this is also a fight. It's a fight about who has the right and who has the power to say this is good or this is bad. And this is the question what Mephisto is also asking Faust all the time. And as I told you, he is joking with one of the students, because he's laughing about the student, because he say science is knowing nothing, and I know it because you don't know where I'm coming from. So with these words, I want to wish you a wonderful day, and I hope that you will do using my advice, because it will be a wonderful journey for your own knowledge and for your own growing. It's wonderful to stay with you in contact, and especially today I'm very happy that I can present you some from Germany, because Goethe's Faust is wonderful, and it can bring you to a completely different level of your intellectual thinking. So have a nice time. Your Dr. Thomas Alexander Frank from Tough 180 Online Coaching today. Thank you.